Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phil and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we're going to break down some really major news, which is that Connor Norby is now officially a major leaguer. We're going to talk about that and a little bit more Orioles news in just a moment. But first, Orioles on the Verge is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals this season. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, the game starts here. Now we'll dive into the big story here in Birdland, which is that Connor Norby has been promoted to the Orioles. His contract was purchased by the team on Monday, and really Norby's performance at AAA speaks for itself. He first arrived to Norfolk late in the 2022 season and has been there ever since, and across 913 plate appearances, slashed 293, 365, 501 with 34 homers and an 866 OPS. This year, through 51 games, he had been very impressive at the plate for the Tides, walking just about 11% of the time with a 127 WRC+. Of course, he is being promoted as Jorge Mateo goes on the concussion protocol after a freak injury on Sunday. The Orioles are hoping Mateo is not going to be out for too long, but the big story here is that Norby, a player that a lot of Orioles fans and even the three of us have speculated about his future and whether or not it's in Baltimore, is now getting a shot in the major leagues with the Orioles. Bob, I'll start with you. The numbers in Norfolk, like I said, speak for themselves, but what are your thoughts on this move?
First of all, super happy for Connor. I know that he's gone on record as saying, he knows he's a major leaguer, and now he officially is. I'm sure he's happy, even if he's not getting everyday at bats. Even this is like a short term, Joey Ortiz, like from 2023, just, get your feet wet. Just, I'm sure he'll take the major league debut, the major league paycheck, and be happy with that for now. So love that. The fact that he got like an announcement from the Twitter and he got a real number, which Ortiz didn't get either of those last year. Kind of made me think, maybe this was, obviously not planned because it was a freak injury, but just like in the back of their minds that if we need someone, this is who it's going to be. And maybe they have more plans for him than we think. If maybe just in case he stays here, I don't know, or at least, he can get a tryout for other teams to get to see him in action. Either way, it was very cool. It was very fun and exciting to break that news this morning and just know that this was going to happen all day long. And now he might have struck out in the first two at-bats, which is as far as we've seen live here tonight. But get those first game jitters out of the way and excited to see how he does in this first taste.
Yeah, shocking. It is unfortunate, like you guys have mentioned, that it took the freak injury to Mateo. And that's especially when Mateo was scorching hot, and like it seems like it is a concussion. So if he's out a week or two, hopefully it's only a week or two, but there's always just the risk of what could happen, and just the fact that he's broken out of his rhythm now that he was in. But hopefully Mateo's back soon. What that means for Norby long term, I don't know yet. But as of right now, like this is your shot. Like this is the shot he's been waiting for. Like Bob mentioned, he's been pretty outspoken about his status and how he feels, but which I think is good. He's coming up to the big leagues with a massive chip on his shoulder, and I hope he takes this opportunity and runs with it. Maybe he forces the Orioles' hand and somehow he's able to work his way into this rotation. I don't know how, but maybe he can. Either way, like spoiler alert, we're gonna do update our top 50 for patrons only after this. And I still kept Norby number 5 on my personal list, which I think is like 2 spots higher than both of you guys have him on. And it's just because I'm keeping Norby at number 5 on my own personal list just because I think that I think some might kind of discredit him just a little bit or knock him down just a touch in terms of like his prospect status, just because of his status in the organization. We talked so many times on the show about like, how does Norby fit in? You get questions all the time in mailbag episodes. How do we fit Connor Norby into this rotation? And we're like, it's going to take injuries, multiple injuries, probably for him to get that shot. That was assuming Jackson Holliday was up and hitting well, which he is not. So that took one instance away. But, he's hitting. I actually pulled it. Let me pull up this thing here. Sorry, trying to do this live real quick and didn't have all my stuff set up. At TJ Stats on Twitter. I had to pull up his tweet earlier. It does great statistical work there, his stuff plus model and all that. Because I wanted to see, like, there are holes in Norby's defense, right? You can talk about that. You can talk about the swing and miss. The strikeout rates ballooned to 30% when he was in AAA. But earlier in the year, he was hitting the ball much harder. But actually, after looking at TJ Stats tweet there, Norby's kind of gone back to his 2023 form where he's hitting the ball. His 90th percentile and average exit velo are actually the same as last year, almost identical. His max EV is 3 miles per hour lower than last year. So maybe you can also poke holes and he doesn't hit the ball incredibly hard. But I still feel like this is a pretty darn good prospect that if he was in another organization, I mean, he's easily a top 3, top 4 prospect and a guy that a lot of fans are banging the door down to be their starting second baseman. So glad he's getting a shot.
Yeah. And, the data, it's not as outstanding as guys like Mayo, Cowser, Kerstad even. But even Kerstad doesn't have the loudest like exit velocities. He just knows how to barrel up the ball. And I think Norby's kind of similar. He just knows how to hit, how to grind out at bats. He kind of I said this on our Discord, and I don't know, maybe people took it as a slam, but I don't think it is, because I still think highly of Taron Vavra as a hitter. But I think he could almost be like, and obviously he has more power, but a right-handed Taron Vavra who can stay healthy, plays, second base and the outfield, and he gets better launch angles. He gets more mileage out of his batted ball, even if it's not like the best data on it. I don't think that's the end all be all. He knows how to hit. He has his entire life, his entire career. And yeah, I think he's a super valuable player. And yeah, me and Zach having 7, but that 5 to 7 group is like, roll the dice. They could go in any order.
Yeah, and honestly, I would argue that even the 5 to 10 group at this rate, you could say roll the dice, put them in any order because it's that close. But I go back to when Norby was drafted in 2021 out of ECU. He led the nation in hits that year. And all we kept hearing was, is he going to hit for power? Because that was the one thing that kept coming up over and over again, because everybody knew the hit tool was good. We knew the defense was limited. That's been something we've known about Norby for years. But the question was, is the power going to develop? And then when he got to Bowie in 2022, all of a sudden the power turns on and it doesn't really turn off. And I think that, I think I said this a few weeks ago on the show, if you put him on half the teams in baseball right now, he would have started opening day at second base. I really believe that. So the fact that the Orioles, number one, have him, they can bring him up in this spot, shows how strong their depth is. But to this point, though, what does he have to do to stick? Because Mateo is probably not going to be out that long. Ramon Arias is still here. Jackson Holliday is probably going to be back at some point. And don't forget about Kobe Mayo. Out right now with an injury, but it's very possible that Mayo is not hurt. He's the one getting the call right now. So how does Norby stick?
That's a great point about Mayo. Like, this was his chance, right? If he's healthy, it's probably him. But still, like, we know Mayo's going to get his shot. So I'm almost happier that it worked out this way. Norby can get his, which I did predict in our preseason predictions, that Norby would make his major league debut with the Orioles before being traded. So it's kind of good for that. And just, Norby gets his moment. And we know Mayo's going to come up and be a stud for this team for a long time. Just a minor blip on his radar, but is unfortunate timing for him. As far as Norby being able to stick, I think, I almost think for any debuting guy, good or bad, you throw out that first game as just a learning experience, get your feet wet. So the rest of this week, let's see how he does. If they like what he's doing, both defensively, offensively, what have you. If he performs and it gets hot, maybe when Mateo comes back, they're comfortable with Westberg and Mateo and Norby, and Ramon Arias gets DFA'd, or they find a trade partner for him. Maybe there's a trade that is sitting there if they ever want to pull the trigger on it, or maybe they like his defense in the corner outfield and Kyle Stowers goes down if they want a right-handed bat, which I don't think that's going to be the case because Stowers done pretty well in his short time, but most likely he'll go right back down when Mateo's ready. But maybe they prefer him to Arias at this point. And either way, he's on the 40-man, so it's going to be easy to bring him back up in the future from now on. So it's good all the way around. Hopefully he just performs and says, I dare you to send me down because I'm helping the team right now.
That's exactly what he's saying, to himself, especially every time he's going to get a hit when he's up. It's surprising, first of all, that he's up today, Monday, as we're recording this, and he got the start against a righty. We know the Orioles have no issues bringing a guy up and then not playing him for a while, but to put him immediately in the lineup against a right-hander and Kevin Gausman, I don't know. You mentioned the video, the number. I know a lot of Orioles fans like to point to that as well. It's almost like, is there more plan with Norby? But I still feel like this is like Jackson Holliday's spot. It's just unfortunate that Holliday came up and didn't perform. And he's been performing much better down in AAA. There's been lots written recently about the changes and adjustments he's made. Statistically, the last week or so, 7 to 10 days, he's hitting the ball very well. He's getting on base. He's doing a much better job. Even yesterday, I think he came in as a pinch hitter and got a walk and then stole a base. So even in the inning or so he played, he was making a difference. I think when he's ready, it's his spot. But this is, like we said, Norby is a guy who people are like, you're wasting his talent. Same thing with Kerstad. Just trade him. Why don't you trade Norby already? Give him a shot. Well, this is why you don't trade Norby, because even if it's just for a couple of weeks here while Mateo's out, but if another injury happens, now Norby is on the 40-man roster, like Bob said, it's much easier. You can bring him back up, and he can be that replacement for you at any time. And like we said, this is a guy who, like Zach said, how many other teams see the opening day starting second baseman? I think Pete Connor Norby is still like a second division starter or that bench utility bat on a playoff team. Like he's that good of a player. He's just been blocked here in Baltimore. So I think just make the most of this opportunity. And if showcase your stuff, and maybe somebody says, maybe that increases his trade value. Another team sees him at the major league. They got major league data on him. And they say, we liked him before, but now that we've seen him, we might like him a little bit more. You never know. Maybe someone else that we're not thinking about, we're not talking about, is on the trade block. And Michael, I said, they're in discussions. They're always in discussions year round with these trades, but they're going to address pitching. They're going to trade. I feel very confident that they're going to make a big move. A starter, reliever, somewhere, a big move is going to be made. Maybe it's someone that we're not thinking about that's going to get moved. And Norby is coming up to be a replacement at some point later in the year. I don't know. But for right now, I just think this is just take advantage of this opportunity and do what you can. And if you're down in a week or 2 weeks, you're back down in AAA, use that to your advantage. Like everybody else, you've seen it, you've experienced it, you know exactly what to expect next time you come up, and he'll be good to go.
When you're ready to pop the question, the last thing you want to do is second-guess the ring. At BlueNile.com, you can design a one-of-a-kind ring with the ease and convenience of shopping online. Choose your diamond and setting. When you find the one, you'll get it delivered right to your door. Go to BlueNile.com and use promo code POD to get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more. That's code POD at BlueNile.com for $50 off your purchase. BlueNile.com, code POD.
We'll see.
Yeah. Use that to drive your hunger, your attitude, which I don't think he needs it to get back up there. And I meant to say earlier that I think just say Norby's up for the rest of the year. I would expect similar numbers to Westberg did, maybe more ups and downs last year, not this year's Westberg, but just like a low to mid 700 OPS. I think that's what you could expect.
That brings me to the last point about Norby, which is, and I think Bob's has kind of answered this question. Suppose that he sticks the rest of the year, or he's down in the minors, but then comes back up in, 8 weeks or so, sometime after the All-Star break even, and then sticks. What's a realistic expectation for Connor Norby production-wise?
I think you're going to see him hit with an extended run. I mean, this year, I could see Norby being a 240, 250 hitter. I think he could be like a one WAR player for the rest of the year, probably. Couple home runs. He's going to get into some home runs. And like we saw when he was down in the minor leagues, it's not just, I don't know what his batted ball profile was looking like this year. It's still on average like 50, 51% pull down in AAA. But we've seen it throughout his minor league career. He's not just a pull heavy hitter. He sends home runs the opposite way. That fun when he was on the show, you had that fun, or in Kobe Mayo, we had Kobe Mayo on after him, I think. And there was that fun conversation between them about who the race was to hit more home runs last season. And I think even Kobe said, no, Connor's going to get me in the opposite field, center field home run category, because that's what Norby did. How many first step bat leadoff opposite field or up the middle home runs did we see from Norby last year? So he's still going to get into some at Camden Yards, be a 250 hitter, 300 on base percentage. He's going to strike out a hefty amount, but if he can get on base and work at bats like he's done throughout the minor leagues, I think he's going to be able to provide value for you.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is a 240, 250 hitter with around a 300 on base and then a little bit of power, maybe 4 to 450 on the slugging. So like I said, a low 700s to mid 700s OPS. And I think you would be happy with that as a rookie. That's what Westberg did. And look at the improvements he made coming into this year. And I think Norby is not the athlete that Westberg is. I don't know if he has the raw power that Westberg does, but I think he's pretty similar as far as the hitter goes, I would say.
And he's not like he hits righties well. I know the Orioles like to play that matchup game, and especially with the younger players, they're probably going to, quote unquote, protect him against righties. But just this year, he was hitting 274 and OPSing over 830 or at 830 against righties. Last year, he hit almost 300. I think that was just in AAA, but hitting almost 300 against righties, like that was 20, 30 points higher than he hit against lefties last season. So, I mean, he's not going to be a wasted at bat against righties either. You can get him in this lineup. How many of you got Mullins, Santander, Stowers? Like that's a lot of lefties up there in the outfield. I think there's room for this right-handed bat who can hit right-handed pitching as well. And maybe we even see him sometime in left field. I know they asked Hyde pregame if we're going to see him in the outfield, and Hyde said, we got a lot of good guys out there in the outfield, so we'll see. But he's got that in his tool bag. He's played more outfield than second base down in AAA this year, so plenty more opportunity for him there.
Absolutely. We'll go now to the other big story of this week, which is injuries to the pitching staff. We talked about this a little bit last week, but we've had more development since then, as it was announced that both John Means and Tyler Wells would need to undergo UCL surgery. And in fact, on Monday, Means underwent a successful Tommy John surgery. Both are out for the remainder of 2025 and possibly most, if not all, of 2026. And there are really diverging paths for these two players beyond this year. The Orioles have club control over Wells for the next 3 seasons after 2024, meaning he won't be a free agent until after the 2027 season. Means, meanwhile, will hit free agency at the end of this season. For both pitchers, though, it is their second Tommy John surgeries, and neither pitcher had very much time during the regular season this year before undergoing elbow surgery. Now, I'll start with Nick here. Just your reaction to this news and what it means to the Orioles' pitching depth.
It's not ideal, obviously. It's a gut for Means. I'll start with Means and just say that it's a gut punch, but I think more so just because of everything he's been through and how easy of a guy he is to cheer for. I know right now, John Means should be pitching in this rotation, being a leader in that clubhouse for these guys, looking forward to getting this team that he went through the dark times with this organization. He should be looking forward to more playoff baseball, getting the opportunity to fight with these guys to potentially hoist a World Series trophy, and looking forward to that offseason contract, either extension to stay in Baltimore or that free agent contract. something that's going to help set his family up for the rest of their lives. And instead, he's undergoing his second Tommy John surgery. Just today, it happened. It sucks for him, and I feel terrible for him. But from a roster standpoint, like I mentioned before the season started, when I saw someone else make this point, and I was like, that's exactly how I feel. Anything we got from John Means this year is going to be a bonus. I wish the bonus was a little bit bigger, a little bit longer of a bonus, other than the 2 starts he made, which were very good. But like Albert Suarez has stepped up in a massive way. Cole Irvin has stepped up in a massive way. And when Dean Kramer comes back, which looking like is going to be soon, you've still got 6 guys with Cade Povich, as Mike Elias put it, on the tip of their tongues, which is like weird phrasing, Mike. But you've still got you got Povich down there waiting in the wings that you don't have to rush up. So you've got 6 viable starters with one of your top prospects sitting there just waiting. And like I mentioned last week when we talked about pitching, you've got more than enough depth, even just to pull from the Rule 5 eligible guys. Even you can make a Jack Flaherty type trade at the deadline. Obviously, someone better than Jack Flaherty, someone better than last year's Jack Flaherty, because he's hitting a stride this year right now. But you've got more than enough capital where it wouldn't even make a wave in your farm system to shore up the back end of the rotation if you need to by trading away that excess depth, as long as there aren't any more injuries. So I still feel good in that spot. The bigger thing for me is Wells, because it would have been really nice to have Tyler Wells back in this bullpen this year, because that's the weakness that I think we need to address and be aggressive with. So that one from a roster standpoint hurts a little bit more, but just from a personal standpoint, like John Means, I don't know about you guys. I still remember that no-hitter game. I was driving home from work, caught in traffic, which is rare in Harrisonburg, Virginia. There's not really traffic, like you Baltimore folks. But I'm stuck in traffic, and I'm listening to Jeff Arnold on the radio, him call that no-hitter game. And like I sat in my car in my driveway for another 20 minutes as my kids are probably screaming, waiting for dinner. But I'm listening to John Means no-hitter out in the driveway, and that was awesome. I'll never forget that moment. And it may be the last time we've seen John Means in an Orioles uniform. I hope not, but time will tell, I guess, what the organization wants to do with him.
Yeah, I think Nick said it best with those guys. It sucks, especially for Means, being this is his last year, just coming back. He had to miss the playoffs last season. That would have been cool to see him get a start, even if we still managed to get swept there. But he came back. He pitched great last year, and then he came back again this year, and he was pitching really well. It's just super unfortunate. The guy knows how to pitch. I don't think his career is over. I think his career in Baltimore might be over, although I wouldn't be surprised if they figure out, a 2-year deal just to give him some insurance and maybe give him another chance when he's recovering from here. I wouldn't be shocked if he comes back with the Orioles, but I think he's still in his early 30s. I think he doesn't have that much wear and tear on his arm other than the surgeries. So as far as that goes, I could see him coming back. He knows how to pitch. Sucks, but like Nick said, it's not like we were, counting on him as far as making 30 starts and leading the way on the staff. Wells, I was starting to prepare myself the more the news came out that he's still in Sarasota, hasn't begun throwing yet. There was like warning signs that something was up potentially. Hopefully he can just get like the brace surgery and be back quicker, because he's still here for a couple years after this one. Still like his arm. It just sucks. Pitching injuries are an epidemic. I feel like they always have been, but this year definitely seems a little bit wild and crazy on that front. So, it's Cade Povich season. There's 2 TBAs on the Wednesday and Thursday for the Orioles. I wonder if Cade Povich will get that Thursday start. Maybe we'll have to break that news on a Wednesday night or Thursday morning.
I would love to see that regarding Povich, but going back to the conversation about what it means in the short term for the roster, I agree about Means. Anything that we could get from Means this year when we thought that he was going to be healthy for at least, half the season was kind of considered a bonus. I do think the emergence of Albert Suarez eases the loss of Tyler Wells, at least for now, because Suarez can kind of fill that role as your spot starter or bulk innings reliever, where I kind of saw Wells fitting in down the stretch potentially. Now you've got to, somehow address this is late inning bullpen role. Wells was a pretty good closer for the Orioles in 2021. He did a good job in high leverage situations over the final weeks of last season. So I had thought we might see Wells in that spot again this year. And if anything, it just reinforces what we already knew, which is that the Orioles need to get bullpen help between now and the trade deadline.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But like Bob said, with John Means and not having much mileage on his arm, neither does Tyler Wells. I mean, both of these guys have missed 2+ years now. I mean, John Means does scare me a little bit more just because like he's going to be 32, pushing 33 when he's fully healthy again, coming off literally back to back, 2 major surgeries and not having pitched meaningfully since 2021. And you're now looking at 2026 until he's back on the mound for that. So potential a 5-year gap there in between him pitching. But then again, like he really hasn't pitched that much. So if he can get back into shape and you work him right and everything goes better with the second surgery, maybe he can be a help to you. But with Wells, I think it's the same thing. He's a little bit younger. He's only 28, 29 right now. I don't even know how many career innings he has. It can't be very much. Even if you add up his minor league innings, it can't be too many because he also had that 2020 season he missed. And then he missed 2021 or 2019 with his Tommy John surgery. I don't have his page put up and I get my years mixed up, but either way, he's missed a lot of time as well. He's a bigger guy. I think he's a little bit more athletic guy than John Means. Maybe he can come back healthier. At least with Wells though, you've got that extra year. He's got 2-3 more years on that contract. So you got more time to make a decision. With Means, that's going to be the more interesting one though, I think, to see what I would like to see him get that. If Means wants it, give him that, and the Orioles want to do it, give him that extension just to help him rehab and have that opportunity. And, if you're looking good and the Orioles feel confident in you and he wants a shot in 2026, then I'm all for giving John Means that shot again. Or if another team comes calling and says, hey, we'll give you a little bit more money, some rebuilding club, we want you, and he wants to take the money and take that shot, I wouldn't be mad at that either. I hope to see him back on the mound, whether it's in an Orioles uniform or not. I just hope he's back on the mound at some point in the next year or so.
Well, we'll have to see how this progresses for both pitchers. In the meantime, that does it for this episode of Orioles on the Verge. We're going to be back later on this week to break down the Dominican Summer League rosters as the Dominican Summer League will begin play this week. In the meantime, you can catch us on our multitude of social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, where we have been delivering breaking news over the last couple of days, TikTok, YouTube, and we're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And if you're not a member of our Patreon community yet, please consider signing up as we're about to release our updated top 50 prospects list for the month of June. As a reminder, you can sign up for Patreon for as little as $3 a month, and at the $5 and $10 levels, have access to bonus daily coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself. Orioles on the Verge is brought to you by Bet Online. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.
You know when you're listening to a true crime story that has an unbelievable plot twist that makes you stop in your tracks? That's what our podcast, People Are the Worst, brings you with each episode. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Rebecca. We're identical twins who love true crime cases that make you say, didn't see that coming, and we hate the people responsible for them. Listen to People Are the Worst now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.